This is part 2 of our conversation with Paul, Jack, Fronczak, and Tracey Hastings. Make sure to listen to part 1 before you embark on this episode. This is a wild story, and you don't want to miss the background to what we're talking about here. And we'll be back at the end of this conversation for some final thoughts.
And to get more information on the Fronzac Files, you can go to thefronzacfiles.com. The link is in the show notes. Be sure to follow us on social media at MissingCSM. We're going to break real quick for commercial, and we will return with Paul, Jack, and his partner Tracey to continue this conversation about Paul, Jack's amazing life journey.
You seem like a really well-adjusted guy. Did you suffer from an identity crisis?
I've had too many identities to have a crisis. we just found more names recently. I was foundling number 1, foundling 19.
Right.
Yeah, Scott, Paul, Jack, all kinds of names. No, you know what it is? I think honestly, it was learning to survive. So just always adapting to the situation that you're in because you want to see tomorrow. And when I started this journey, I never looked at it as it happening to me. It was happening to someone else. I'm just a researcher, investigator trying to find answers. And it seems to work pretty well for me. I never just sit down and go, man, I'm really bummed out because I have all these identities, But we did this thing where there was a psychologist around us or whatever, and she said, hanging out with me for a day, she saw 3 distinct personalities, and they would pop out during different things. So I guess I've learned to use them to my advantage, which is a really good thing, because who doesn't have different personalities around different people?
Me, I am the same around everybody. You know what you're getting.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Jill's investigation, or I should say your investigation into Jill's case? What has been done? I understand there was a composite sketch of what she might look like today. Mm-hmm. Are you getting leads on who she might be?
So I was able to open up the missing persons case with NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They did a composite. And now with AI, we were able to have our own composite pictures. And I think they came out beautifully. There's a bigger range, because, she might look a little differently, things like that, right? I think we're going to find her. I've even talked to psychics, and every psychic I spoke with said that she's alive. She hasn't crossed over. She just doesn't know who she is. So over the last couple of years, I think we've tested probably about 10 women that could have been Jill. And here's the funny thing. When I was trying to find Paul, we found about maybe 6 or 7 guys that could have been Paul. I'm friends with all of them to this day. And so the women who thought they were Jill, I still talk with 2 or 3 of them. And it's like these people, the whole thing is when I started this, I didn't realize how many people have no idea who they are. People have no identities in our country and all over the world. And so when you come close to thinking that you're this person, you start putting your hopes into it. Like I'm going to know who I am. I'm going to have my identity, and then DNA rules them out. But when you bond over something like that, it keeps you together. Because it's not like meeting at a keg party or something, or at a club. You're meeting over DNA.
It's pretty unique. How is that possible that so many women have thought they were Jill? How is...
Okay, so some of them turned themselves in to NCMEC. They wanted to be tested. Some, their friends would bring their attention to us. This person, I think it might be your sister. Can you guys want to test her? Things like that. So it can come from anywhere. We're still waiting for one person to be tested now. It's been almost a year.
Yeah, we were notified that there was a very good tip on someone potentially who could turn out to be Jill. And the tip was received in November of last year. And as far as we know, nothing's been done about it. It's still sitting on someone's desk, and no attempt to retrieve DNA to test her has been done. So
that's why I always wanted to avoid the legal route.
So when you say sitting on their desk, is this the FBI or is this some other organization's desk?
It's another organization.
This is my favorite conversation. I'm so sorry that you wrote that this is what has happened to you, but this is so fascinating. So
well, thank you. And don't be sorry. It's a hell of a ride.
Absolutely.
I bet. Wow.
Yeah, there are just mysteries abound here, and it's really wild. So there's a chance that woman is your sister. It kind of blows my mind to think that you get tips about someone else, thinking that, oh, my friend or so and so might be your missing sister, and then there's totally a possibility out there that the real sister has no idea that her identity isn't what she thought, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's likely the case, that she has no clue that she's probably has a misattributed identity. So, and it catches us in a position too, as a team and wanting to solve these mysteries is, do we go around law enforcement and figure out a way to test her ourselves? Or do we try to do this by the book, which means likely nothing's going to get done, because that's typically what we see, is that just, wait for law enforcement, wait for the wheels to turn, let us do our job. But you're not doing your job. That's part of the problem, is nothing's getting done. Because
our team, we get information, we jump in a car, we hop on a plane, we go and we try to find the answers as quick as possible. Because like I said, tomorrow's never promised. If you have an opportunity to do something, do it today. When I was digging the grave in my grandma's house, there was I paid a guy to radar sweep her backyard where her house was in Atlantic City, and the guy found 3 possible grave sites. So we only had I had to pay the guy that owned the land a lot of money to dig a hole. I felt like Cool Hand Luke for a second there. But I'm digging the grave, and I got down maybe a couple of feet. I'm pretty good shape, but it's Atlantic City. It's 95 degrees out. It's hot. I couldn't go anymore. We found a guy who was digging a pool next door. He came over, gave him $100. He started digging, right? He gets down, the water starts coming up because we're only a couple blocks off the ocean. And bones started falling in the shovel. And even when that happened, I thought to myself, that's not my sister. I think she's alive. But, when you get a tip, something like that, you've got to see it through.
Yeah, definitely. Now, since you're a twin and you had the experience of not exactly feeling like you were Paul for most of your life, do you feel like deep down your sister might have similar feelings?
I really hope so. But then again, hopefully she wasn't tossed around from different families being told that you're this person. And then those people have expectations of how you should be already. I'm hoping that my parents gave her away to someone and they just raised her. But knowing how this story is, I'm sure it's a very dark, twisted, unhappy story. But as long as we find her alive, that's all that matters.
A couple of points on that. Maybe she's the lighter side of this, the darker side of the story. Maybe she did have that lighter experience, something a little bit more positive. So, the way this all is unfolding, there is that yin and yang to the whole thing. So maybe that is what that is the case for her.
Well, I hope you're right, Lance. I really do. But I hope that she had a great life and that when I find her, she's happy and,
Because what we know about the history of the twins, what the babysitter, what other family members have reported, was there was some really horrific abuse and neglect of the twins. And so the theory being that the family had a lot of children in short order. There were 4 children born in 3.5 years in this family. And when Jack and Jill were born in October of 1963, they'd had a daughter in January of that year as well. So they had 3 babies in 10 months. And what we know about that is that that's a huge strain on families, financially, emotionally, mentally. And women who have short order pregnancies, short interval pregnancies like that are at a much higher risk for postpartum depression and psychosis, which can lead to the abuse of children that they might target as a point of their contention and why they are feeling bad. We know there was financial issues. We know there were relationship problems between his parents, that the marriage was not going well, could possibly have been due to having so many children in such a short amount of time. For the time period, of course, we're talking the early 60s, it was the woman's fault that she kept getting pregnant. And so it likely would have been the woman's job to make this better, fix it. We need to get rid of some of these kids. And so we know that Jack's father left the family for about 6 months in 1965, right around the time that Jack was recovered. He was gone. And that's the same time that Jill disappeared. So potential working theory that his father said, do something about this. When I come back, this better not be a problem anymore. When he came back, the twins were gone.
You said that when you discovered the bones, you had a feeling that this wasn't Jill, this wasn't your sister. What is that feeling like? Is it like something that's sort of in your gut? And do you have any notion of what the feeling will be if you were to see somebody and you know that it is her?
Those are good questions, Lance. Those are really good. So when the guy held up the shovel with the bones in it, my first thought was, oh my God, this could be closure. But then I had this overwhelming feeling of that's not my sister. And we had the bones analyzed. They were all animal bones. But I don't know who's digging 6 feet down to bury a dog. And that's a little crazy. But I still feel that if I was to walk down the street and I passed her, I think I would feel it. Especially if I could look in her eyes. I mean, I spent 2 years with her in very close proximity. And even though I had black eyes, I'm sure I could still see out of one of them, and I think I would remember, just being next to her.
And we also know that twins have a mental, emotional connection to one another, fraternal, identical, or otherwise. But, when you spend time in the womb together, and then typically children of multiple births they spend a lot of time. They share rooms, they share beds, they share strollers, they share everything. And so the idea of building a deep bond with a sibling is absolutely there, for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like your instinct or intuition even is leading you in the right direction. Like it gives you the most accurate reading on these unanswerable questions so far, at least in what I've heard of the story. So I would just say keep following that because it seems to work, and leads me to my next question. Tell us about the podcast and what your goals are with the Fronzac Files now.
So the first season, we just pretty much covered my story because the whole thing was I saw all these other podcasters doing my story and doing it in injustice, doing it wrong facts. And so when I got with Tracey, I've had this team, this research team. I've got a brilliant PI. We have DNA researchers, historical researchers. I wanted to do it with the real human emotion of what's really happening, how it affects not only me, but everyone that's involved with this story for the last 50 plus years. So that was the first season. The second season is what I really wanted to do. A lot of people write into us. They have questions about their identity. They want help. They're saying that we're inspiring them to start their own journeys. So we want to start helping other people find their answers, find their truths, find their identities, find the loved ones that they're looking for. And that's what we're working on right now. We already started shooting season 2.
Also, this story will permeate through all future seasons of the Fronzac Files because this is an ongoing case on several levels. And so as we come up with new information, new leads, those things are going to be dropped in during the season as well to keep our listeners up to date as we find out new things and hopefully solve who the kidnapper was of the real Paul and where is Jill.
And I just have one personal question. Feel free to dismiss it or not, but you did say that you had a good relationship with your daughter, and I was wondering if at times she gets frustrated not knowing exactly what her lineage is or what her family tree is. Is that something that she feels like she's at a disadvantage, or she accepts the challenge and it's, worked into a more positive, atmosphere?
Well, we actually have a really big tree. With the help of CeCe Moore and my team here, we have a full family tree. Matter of fact, this whole new side of the family reached out to me from Tennessee, and I went out there last summer and got to hang out with them for a week. Just wonderful, wonderful people. They were on my biological mom's side of the family, so I was able to meet a lot of close family, which is it's amazing. So she has a full tree. It's whether or not she wants to associate with the close family because they're not really nice people.
Wow.
Did I answer the question?
Just hearing that is reassuring, but also I think folks who are being introduced to this story will start to think about those things, and they will immediately go to how lonely it must feel. But it's not. So hearing you say, no, we have a big family tree. We have made a family of our own through all of these new relationships as we investigate. I think it's really reassuring and motivational to hear that when the surface of it is like, wow, this is wild. And I feel like people would just appreciate that, I guess.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if you didn't understand what I was talking about.
Fix it in post.
Oh, I mean, and what we know going through this, with Jack, I'm new to the team. I've only been involved for about the last 8-9 months or so, as the sort of half the face of this podcast and bringing my background to bear on it as well. This is a very inspiring story for a lot of people, that despite a very, very difficult beginning and a lot of ups and downs and a feeling of being on the outside most of his life and not really understanding why, but still able to solve his own case and help other people figure out who they are. He's a real inspiration to people that are looking to just find something good in the world out of something bad. And this, I think, is a great example of that.
I like that. Well said.
Yeah, couldn't have said that better myself. Well, thank you both so much for joining us here tonight. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to make sure our listeners check out your podcast, The Fronzac Files. You can find you on YouTube at The Fronzac Files. You're also on Apple and Spotify and other podcatchers as well. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. This has been unbelievable.
Thanks for having us. Can I just say one thing too to your listeners? If anyone's on the fence about starting the journey, if you have any questions about your identity or you know someone who does and you want a little help, reach out to us, because that's what we do and we're really good at it. And we're not going to stop. You can't live a lie. You gotta find the truth. The truth is out there.
All right, Lance, we're back here for final thoughts after the conversation with Paul, Jack, and Tracey. I never really know what to call him. We kind of asked him beforehand, before we started recording, and he's like, well, whatever.
Call me whatever.
He doesn't care. So I kind of reverted to just calling him Jack, because I don't know, calling him Paul Fronczak, that was the person that he wasn't.
Right.
Like, we know he wasn't that person initially. So I don't want to take somebody else's name, someone who did exist and lived a life that we get into very, very briefly in this conversation. I think his name was Kevin. And there's some more information out there about him, the baby that was abducted from that Chicago hospital in 1964. But the Jack that we spoke with, he was the toddler or baby located in New Jersey in 1965. And after speaking with Paul, Jack, and Tracey, I'm not confused by the story anymore, but it is a very tough story to just grasp initially.
Yeah, I'm not confused by the story anymore either, but it's tough to articulate. Like, I've practiced it on people to explain it to people so that it makes sense to them. And at some point, you just get to this moment where you start confusing yourself again, because you get like this look from the other person and they're like, they've lost the thread, which makes me lose the thread explaining it to them. And then I have to backtrack and sort of repeat myself and clarify certain details. And even now, revisiting this conversation, the functioning part of my brain is trying to understand how it all happened and where they're at today. I mean, I know, but we've never had a story like this come to us. So it's about as least straightforward as possible. It's a missing person story. It's a kidnapping story. It's a trafficking story. There's some mafia elements to it, some organized crime elements to it that date back to apparently Al Capone. So it's like this cornucopia of everything we talked about, everything we've ever talked about in one episode.
Yeah, and we covered a case recently, just I want to say earlier this month in September or late August, the case of Bobby Dunbar, Lance. And this story of Paul Jack Fronczak actually is somewhat similar. And I think I texted you during the interview. It's like, this is like interviewing Bobby Dunbar, because Bobby Dunbar went missing from a swamp in Louisiana. And then there was a boy that was walking with a man, and the authorities thought that could be the missing Bobby Dunbar. It wasn't, but authorities thought it was. And so that kid lived as Bobby Dunbar for his entire life until he got to be an adult, and then found out that he wasn't actually Bobby Dunbar. I think his name was Bruce, his real name. So oddly, this story kind of mimics that in a way, where Jack lived as Paul Fronczak for like whatever, like 40 years or something, not knowing that he wasn't Paul Fronczak. He had an idea that he wasn't because of finding that box of files at 10 years old in his house's crawlspace. Since that moment, he wasn't sure, and he held on to that memory of finding that box and the truth of him having been kidnapped, his entire life. So it was always in the back of his head. But like, what a mystery. Like, I feel like every 10-year-old kid with some curiosity wants that mystery of their life, Yeah. Certainly as a kid, you'd be into that mystery.
And he was, too. He said, and that answer kind of surprised me. He said that he thought it was cool. He wanted to tell his friends. That was one of the first things that he wanted to do, was tell his friends, because I was just impressed when he was telling the story that a 10-year-old, and maybe I'm misremembering my childhood, I don't know if I knew what kidnapping was. Like, I don't know if I understood exactly what that, was, like, if you broke it down, that this would be something where a child's abducted and then what happens to them after the fact. I guess we just never had that conversation in my household. I don't know why, but I guess I just don't know. Like, that was my question. What was going through a 10-year-old Paul Fronczak's brain when he saw that, and the fact that he was like, I thought it was cool. Like, that makes more sense. That makes sense to me,
I can see that.
It's not like the article had anything to do with his parents in a disparaging way. It was almost like his parents had saved him. His parents had rescued him. So that's a cool story. He was taken, he was rescued, and his parents got their son back. So yeah, because everything worked out, he's certainly excited about that and wanting to tell his friends, because that makes him stand out.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old now, and she will oddly once in a while ask questions like, am I really, and she'll ask to her mom, my wife, she'll say, am I really your kid? Did you really give birth to me? It's like, I think we'd know if that did. But my point is, kids just want to be they just want a mystery about their life. I think they want something to sort of make them special when compared to their friends,
Yeah.
Something like that. So that all rang really true to me when Paul, found that box in the crawl space, and I could see someone hanging on to that and then being curious as you grow old. And he said he didn't really feel like his name was Paul Fronczak, which is interesting. And, we sort of talk a little bit about his intuition in the second part here. And I feel like he's got a very strong intuition, and he follows it. And I think that's the only reason that they are in the place where they are, where they're kind of solving these mysteries and moving past them to the next mystery.
Yeah, that's such a good point, that this is something that they're tackling in order to tell his story finally, right? Because imagine that, since you're 10 years old, and even before then when he was saying that he didn't feel like the person he was being told he was, that's going to be such a odd feeling to go through most of your life thinking that you have no control over your story, thinking that your story is a mystery and you don't know why. That's another part of this like onion of a story, that another layer that you peel back. Like you have to emotionally and psychologically deal with that your story isn't your story. So how are you making your life your own narrative? So by doing this, he's like taking his narrative back, I guess, right? Yeah, that he's owning his life. He's finally saying this part is my life, which is interesting now that we're talking about this. The fact that he said, you can call me anything. So he doesn't even associate names with himself now. I mean, I don't have a degree in psychology here, but at this point, I would imagine that like, okay, you can call me Paul, you can call me Jack. I never really felt like I was Paul. They're telling me I'm Jack. You know, a test is telling me I'm Jack, but I'm just going to be the human being that I am here on Earth to be. So I guess maybe names are sort of just like labels for other people to identify him by.
Yeah, I don't know. Even when we sent the like calendar invite to schedule this, I think I had him listed as Paul Fronczak at first, and then I was like, oh wait, I don't want to insult him. And I changed it, I think, to Jack Fronczak, and like I just didn't know, and turns out he doesn't really care either way. But I just didn't want to offend him, I didn't want to open something up that he wasn't prepared for. And I just want to note that he's written a couple of books. One is called The Foundling, the true story of a kidnapping, a family secret, and my search for the real me. And that's by Paul Joseph Fronczak. So, his pen name was Paul Joseph Fronczak, and it's got a co-author as well. He's written a second book as well. The second one was called True Identity, also by Paul Joseph Fronczak. And I have gotten these audiobooks now, and I'm excited to dive into them after speaking with him. I kind of can't get enough of this story.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention their podcast, the Fronzac Files. Really interesting stuff. Definitely check that out. They're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. They do full video on YouTube, and I think you'd really appreciate it. And he's also just got a great voice to listen to.
I mean, he's no Bill Thomas, but he does have a great voice. Clear and smooth and very comforting to listen to, and perfect for his attitude. And perfectly aligned with Tracey, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracey is great in this interview as well. And she's great on the podcast and with the research. So she is a tour de force in her own right, Lance. Yeah, so definitely check out the Fronzac Files podcast. There's also a documentary called The Lost Sons. That's on HBO Max. Really interesting stuff. So, I mean, he's no stranger to media coverage.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsors, and now we're back to the program. It's so funny to me that DNA, the moving forward of the industry, I guess, of DNA is bringing these stories out of the woodwork. Like, this story we never would have known about this if genetic genealogy wasn't a thing. It's just wild to me. Same thing with Bobby Dunbar. We never would have had that addendum to that story without this. And the story of the woman who is the daughter of the wanted man, William Bradford Bishop, also comes to mind when we're talking about these stories. There's just DNA mysteries that are changing people's lives as they're alive, and it forces them to go back and reevaluate their entire life. And I don't know, there's something just surreal about that.
I don't know like what the universe is doing and what the universe has in store for Paul Jack, but there's something at play here because his name's Jack, his sister's still missing, her name's Jill. So along like they're named Jack and Jill, they're twins. So he's feeling this intuition. I'm sure Jill, who's out there, I'm sure she's feeling this intuition too. And it's only a matter of time. I don't believe at all that she's deceased. I am very much in the camp of she's still alive. I don't think that she's deceased. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, that they're going to have a reunion as well. But there's something at play here.
Unbelievable.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, I like that. You know, there's something at play here. I do think it's interesting that, you know, he's delved into his life, the mystery of his life, and come up with some answers with the help of CeCe Moore and Tracey and his whole team. They have a whole team on their website, thefronzacfiles.com. You can check it out. But it's incredible to know that, A, he wasn't Paul Fronczak, and then they figured out who he actually was. He was this boy from New Jersey in 1965 that had been abandoned, and then turns out he had a twin sister as well. So that is interesting to like track all the way back to that, right? So if they were twins at the time and his family, I guess, was trying to pawn them off in some way or something like that, and it's really tragic to say and think about. You know, we don't have specific details on it. We just know that he was like located at a mall with a new stroller, a new suit, and I think he had said he had 2 black eyes. So clearly suffering from some abuse. You would hope that his sister is still alive, but if he's there at a mall, abandoned, alive, I would think the sister probably is too, you know?
Yeah.
I think maybe the sister hopefully was treated better and not abused like little Jack was. Obviously, we don't know. She could have been just murdered, honestly, like at that age. We don't know. But my intuition tells me that if he was out there, then she probably was somewhere too. But there's no media story of that, though. Isn't that part interesting? Like, it's not like there was a woman or a girl that same age found in Delaware that we know of or something like that. So if she is alive out there, chances are she was given to people.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's where my train of thought is as well, that she's alive because this is more of like business transactions, not crimes of passion or crimes of like perversion. And the fact that he was found with damage to him, but not damage to the extent where someone was trying to kill him. It was almost as if maybe it was from a fall or something, because it doesn't, I don't know, like it's not specified that he was like, the black eye came from like a punch to the face or something. You know, maybe he was hit with something, but it didn't seem like it was damage intended to kill because he was left. You know, he wasn't left for dead. I mean, maybe he was. Maybe he was hit with a board and left, but he wasn't tried to, like, they didn't try to conceal him either. You know, it wasn't in the forest or anything like that. So that's where my optimism comes from. The fact that he was found alive. It wasn't, I know it's terrible, you know, abuse, but it wasn't abuse to the point where he was lucky to survive. You know what?
Yeah, no. I mean, he was lucky to have been abused and then left. And abandoned, found, yeah. You know, and not murdered, you know. Yeah. So no, that is a good point. And
the intention with the female feels to me more like, again, like I said, like a business transaction. Like she was given to a family or sold to a family on like the black market or whatever happens in the child trafficking rings.
I mean, as weird as it sounds, I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
But the transaction part of this seems to have been in Chicago, you know? Like
true, right. Yeah.
So I don't know, like, if that's what happened. Based on certain historical tragedies, like the Titanic or something, you know, it's like women and children in the rowboats first, you know. So maybe following that idea that, you know, this girl child was safely given to someone instead of, you know, dealing with more harsh elements like being left abandoned at a mall.
Doesn't that feel to you like he was left there so someone would find him, though?
Well, definitely.
Yeah, it's the most public place you could leave somebody.
Yeah.
So this person didn't want the child to die and didn't want the child to be wandering for too long. Like, he was put out there to be found.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a terrible situation, but I don't think someone who would do that to him would then turn and murder his twin sister of the same age and then conceal her body. I don't know, though. Maybe it was an accident.
I will say it depends on how bad the abuse was, right? Like if Jack was hit, then his sister Jill was likely abused too. And we're saying, well, at least they didn't abuse him to the point where they had to kill him. We don't know if that's the truth with what happened to Jill. But I am hopeful that she is out there somewhere. They do have composites of what she may look like now. Interesting to look at. I mean, she really looks a lot like him naturally, I guess. So I wonder if the real Jill is out there and listening to true crime podcasts. Like, don't you think, like...
I think so.
Yeah, don't you think, like, she would be interested in mysteries, even just subconsciously?
Yes.
If he was,
yes.
And so, yeah, I wonder. So certainly, please share this episode, share the Fronzac Files page. Really interesting show that they're doing. Oh, and we're likely going to have them back for a live show on YouTube at some point. I think that would be really fun. I think that we could get a lot of interaction from the audience. Maybe, a question and answer session, questions that we didn't think of. Would love to hear that. And also, if you are someone with questions about your identity, they invited you to reach out to them. So connect with them through their website, thefronzacfiles.com. And it seems like season 2, they're working on other people's mysteries, the mysteries of other folks' lives. So it seems like they really want to help people. I love it. They're great people. We're really some of the best guests we've ever had on this show.
For real. And you did mention his sister being just sort of intrinsically or intuitively interested in true crime. I mean, the odds are in our favor on this. We know our demographic is female. We know that it's in the age range, on top of the fact that there is most likely this, again, to say it over and over, she probably has this subconscious interest in true crime. So the fact that she could be listening to this, the odds are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the odds are pretty good that she subscribes to a true crime podcast, whether that's ours or someone else's. I don't know.
She definitely subscribes to Missing in Crawlspace. And did he give a shout out to Crawlspace when he said anything that comes out of a crawlspace is good?
I don't know if we did. I think they were aware of it, though, because of our email addresses being at
I think it was
Crawlspace
a little
podcast.
shout out because he kind of gave this look after he said it. And, a child going through the crawl space and, nothing bad ever comes out of a crawl space, right, guys? I feel like that was a little wink towards our show.
So. Yeah. Very smart people. I'm along for the ride with their journey.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have them back soon for a live show. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Missing CSM, but definitely subscribe to them too at the Fronzac Files. And check out their show. It's really interesting stuff. So thanks a lot for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with more new episodes.